Oh, you want to get up on my lap again? Okay, come. Up. There you go. You just like to sit on my lap. You just love sitting on my lap when I get in front of the camera. I don't know what it is. Today we're looking at the TS159. Did you flinch? Did you? Yeah, you're okay. This is like an upswept Persian style blade, 14C 28N stainless steel, a nice coarse micarta, and yeah, it's a pretty big knife. Not quite 4 inches on the blade, or is it just over? Well, we'll do all the specs in the video exactly. I do my own measurements using very precise equipment. So this is a liner lock knife, a Wong design, and it's an older TwoSun knife, being 159, the number. $42.99 at White Mountain Knives makes it a little under 39 US dollars, 38 and change at White Mountain Knives. They are sold out at the moment I'm recording this. I don't know if they'll get it back in stock, but on the page for this, I'll leave a link down below. On the page for this, there's an orange button that says notify me. Fill out your email address above that, click that notify me button, and you'll get an email when it's back in stock with no obligation to buy it. It's a really good system that White Mountain Knives has. I wish more knife stores would have that kind of service, but most of them don't. So it's another reason I love White Mountain Knives. A bigger reason is you can save 10% with coupon code CCE on anything you buy. If it happens to be a brand that doesn't allow discounts, then after you finish the purchase, you email White Mountain Knives. Their link is at the bottom of every page, their email address, I should say, and let them know that you'd like to have that discount because Jake at Canadian Cutting Edge said you could get one, and they will give it to you because the owner told me that I could let you know that. So there you go. So without any further ado, let's bring this little knife, little, to the desktop. Yes, yeah, we're going to bring it over to the desktop and we're going to review it, okay? Are you going to help me review this knife? Probably not. Stick around, it's coming right away. Okay, guys, we've got it on the tabletop now, and that is good looking, isn't it? That's a good looking knife. We've got an upswept blade, like I said in the intro, a little bit of a thumb riser there, some very fine jimping in there, but it's a little grippy. It's pretty good. Wouldn't mind if that jimping was a little deeper and went, a little bit further up in there, but it does quite well. We've got a huge swedge that starts right at the ricasso, goes almost to the tip. There's about 1/8 of an inch there where there isn't a swedge. That means we're going to call this a full flat grind. We've got horizontal grinds on the bevel, on the swedge, and on the flat here by the ricasso. The rest of it, the end of the blade here, that looks like it's a bead blast finish on those places. I don't mind. That's okay. We've got a load of belly here, a little bit of a straight edge, a very stabby tip, quite thin. That tip is, it's risky with that tip to, if you pry it into something, you might break that tip. Well, prying, right? Yeah, that's not what knives are designed for. Get a pry tool. The badging on this knife, it's on the main bevel, which I don't prefer, but at least it's not huge. Wong design is nice and small. The 14C28N right there, I wish it was a little bit smaller. It's okay, but I don't really like it there. And the TwoSun here could have been a little bit smaller as well. They're the newest knives in the 300 series. The little bit later 300 series, they're making their logo even a little bit smaller. And I think that swedge up there is big enough. They could have put the badging, most of that badging, on that swedge and on the ricasso. That'd be nicer, in my opinion. But the blade, it's quite good. It's quite thin, slices really well, and takes fingerprints like nobody's business. My skin is just oilier than average, and so I leave prints all over the place. No way can I be a criminal. I'll leave prints on everything. The knife, sharpness choil. It's not quite big enough. The sharpness choil terminates before the plunge terminates. The plunge terminates right about where my fingernail is. I should put my thumbnail there. So we've got not quite an 1/8 of an inch. Sorry about the lighting. We've got not quite an 1/8 of an inch where the plunge is still thinning out, but the blade, doesn't have the sharpness choil covering up that space. So when you go to sharpen this knife, you can see it even more on this side. The blade edge that is getting wide this way, right at the very tip of that heel. And that's because, yeah, the blade's getting thicker while there's still an edge. So when you sharpen it, that's just going to get worse and worse every single time you sharpen it. So that sharpness choil should have been just a little bit bigger. It's a very common story that happens. Unfortunately, a lot of knife companies just aren't thinking about that. But that's the blade. How well does it perform? Yeah, it's a good blade. It cuts well, it slices well, and it certainly pierces extremely well into things that, it's designed for. You don't want to be, plunging this into some hardwood and then, twisting it or something. That's not very smart. But anything fairly soft, like flesh, a critter that you've hunted or whatever, although this isn't a hunting knife, not by any stretch. But yeah, it can cut through all kinds of stuff, largely because of how thin that is behind the grind. And I'll tell you the exact thickness a little bit later on in the video when I go through the measurements. So that's the blade. The handle, we've got this coarse burlap kind of micarta here. And T8 screw here. I think that one is, whoa, there. So we've got a T6 screw here. It's a high quality screw, but it is a T6 here. And then T8 at the back and T8 right there. So yeah, I like that TwoSun uses high quality screws. I like that that screw hole is nice and deep so the screw head goes in a fair ways. But I would still prefer if that was a T8 and not T6. Continuing on, fairly straight back on this knife. And we've got a G10 backspacer here and a cutout area for the lanyard. I like that system for the lanyard hole right there because your paracord is just going to come out the back and not be in the way. I like that idea quite a lot. On the other side, we've got TwoSun's typical pocket clip for budget knives. Even on this knife, it looks a little bit, well, it looks fat this way. At least to me it does. But it's their typical pocket clip. Flat on the top, works just fine. We've got nice big screws here. Those are T8 screws. Those are T8 screws just like they usually are. So yeah, if they can do T8 screws on a pocket clip, why'd they put a T6 in here? It just doesn't make sense to me. Anyhow, the liners have a gray titanium coating on them. At least that's what it looks like to me. I haven't taken it apart yet, and I will soon though. On camera, I'll show you what it looks like put together. We've got the typical T8 screw here for TwoSun, and it comes loose during use. So I highly recommend this stuff. Vibratite, it's an American company. VC3 ThreadMate. It's a thread locker that's totally different than all the other thread lockers out there, like Loctite. Loctite locks the thread. What this stuff does is it holds the thread, and it's basically an anti-vibration, which is why they call it Vibratite. It's an anti-vibration thread locker, so under the vibration, it won't come loose, the vibration of the knife slamming open. But you can undo it with a screwdriver without too much difficulty. And it lasts for, 6-7 uses. You take the screw out, do your knife maintenance, put it back together, and it's going to work just like it did the first time, and the second time, and the third time. All the way up to 6, 7, maybe 8 times, depending on how clean you keep it. And only then do you have to clean all the thread locker material off and start fresh. So I like it a whole lot more than Loctite because that stuff you've got to clean and put new stuff on every single time. So there's that. Lockup, it's just a little bit later than I like. It's engaged. I like this outside edge here of the liner to match up with the outside edge of the blade. And it's just a tiniest bit later than that. And my voice is changing because I'm just going through puberty, right? So that's good. Not a problem. Oh, Bandit. Okay, I don't know what Bandit was barking about, but there we go. The lock release, we've got a nice little cove milled into the side of the steel there. A nice cutaway here. It's very easy to get your thumb in there to disengage the lock with the right or left hand. No problem at all. So I quite like that. The lockup is solid. There's no blade play side to side, up and down, unless you let that screw come loose. Then you're going to have some side to side blade play. Well made. The liners are highly skeletonized. This knife is not very heavy for its size. The flipper here, it's a tall flipper chipping across the front. Ideal for the light switch method. It just opens really well. Or you can just pull down to the side and the blade deploys really well as well. That sound though, I don't like that sound. It sounds like the detent ball rubbing across the side of the blade there. And at least there seems to me there's that sound in there. So it's not a clean opening, but hey, it is a budget knife. But we're not done. Let's take it apart and show you how it's built. This is what it's like after taking the handle scale off. So the pivot screw, there's no Loctite in there. This little T6 screw and the 2 screws for the pocket clip. And you'll see there's one more screw there, and that's a T8. And it wasn't very snug. It was quite loose. And let me finish taking it out here. It's free spinning, so I just need a little pressure back there to get it apart. And you can see here they've got a very pronounced D-shaped hole there. That's to stop the pin from rotating. Captured stop pin, but it is hidden. It's not open on the front to get access to it. That's the proper way to do a stop pin, captured stop pin in my opinion. A nice ceramic ball bearing set, and that's all there is to it. It's fairly well made. I quite like it. So I've put it all the way back together. Before I go over all the measurements and stuff, I forgot to show a couple things. I forgot to show how well it goes into the pocket. Very well. Lots of space underneath here. So like Civivi, you know, that distance there could be less on a TwoSun pocket clip. And I wouldn't mind if it was a little more narrow as well. Like that hole doesn't need to be that wide. So the whole thing could be a little more narrow, a little bit smaller. It's fairly comfortable in hand. It's not a problem the way it is. Blade alignment, pretty much right down the middle. Quite nice. And yeah, it still sounds the way it does, even though I, lubed it up nicely. So still great action. Everything's really nice. It's a decently made thing. Now it's time to do all the measurement specs and all that stuff. I said it wasn't very heavy. 116 grams, 4.15 ounces. Yeah, for a big knife like this, 4.15 ounces is great. Sharpness from the factory, measured in 3 spots and averaged out 95 bests. Very sharp from the factory. Of course, I can make it way sharper than that, but from factory sharpening, that's very good. The blade length and the cutting edge length are the same, 98.7 millimeters, 3.89 inches. The thickness of the knife, 3.66 millimeters, 0.144 of an inch, so a little bit over 1/8 of an inch blade stock that they started with. The blade depth, yeah, that's this way, right here at the heel of the blade, and that peak, that transition point from the thumb riser to the upswept part, 25.7 millimeters, 1.01 inches. How thin is it behind the grind? The sharpening grind, measured again in 3 places and averaged 0.36 millimeters, 14,000ths of an inch thin. Very well done. The grind angles, I didn't average it out. I took like 3 or 4 measurements on each side, so the average will be up top. For this side, the average started at 19.1, went to 18.9, so very well sharpened here consistently, and then goes a little bit up to 20.9. Turn it around this way, started at 19.7 to 19.6, so again, not much difference, but then with the belly, it goes to 18.4 and then 17.7. So there is some variability on there. I do prefer if they could find a way to do machine CNC sharpening on knives, that would be awesome. But these are sharpened, you know, somebody holding it by hand with the wheel turning or a belt turning, and then they slide the knife across. And you just get that kind of variability. That's just the way it happens. I would sharpen this knife with this steel to about 18 degrees per side. The rest of the measurements, handle length is 126.7 millimeters, 4.99 inches. So 5-inch handle. The grip area, it's about 10.5 centimeters, about 4 1/4 inches. That's pretty big. The thickness of the handle, not counting the pocket clip at all, at the widest point, it's 15.92 millimeters, 0.626 of an inch. Not bad for this knife. The handle depth, that's this measurement, it's widest within the grip right here, 23.7 millimeters, 0.933 of an inch. When it's closed, what's the widest part that goes into your pocket? Well, it is up here at the flipper, 31.1 millimeters, 1.22 inches. And when the blade is deployed, the total length, 227 millimeters, 8.94 inches. So 9 inches. 5 inches, 4 inches equals 9. That's a big knife. What are my thoughts, my final thoughts on this thing? I like it. For the price, I like it. Of course, there's things I'd prefer to change. I don't know why the sound is the way it is. Like, why exactly? Yeah, I just wish there was a nice thud at the end instead of that. But other things, you know, lockup is quite good. It's a tiniest bit later than I like, but alignment's good. Action's good, hand feels good. You know, no play, hand feel in the grip, it's quite good in either hand. Even reverse gripping is pretty good. I'm tired of that pocket clip, but functionally it works. It's just fine. Construction is quite good. Very high quality screws. I'm very happy with that. The access to that lock release, like I said, is very good. That's a big deal for me. And it's nice. The lanyard hole, I don't use lanyards that much. I like it though when it's like that. So when it's in your hand, you know, the lanyard paracord can come out the back and it doesn't bunch up because, you know, you've got that narrow spot right there for it. So yeah, it's a good knife. If you're looking for something like this, get your name down at White Mountain Knives. Hit the link for this thing, and then there's going to be a orange box that says notify me just above there. Put your email address in, click it, and you'll get an email if and when it comes back in stock. I'll see if I can find other stores that have it in stock right now, but invariably they're going to cost a fair bit more money than it would at White Mountain Knives. White Mountain Knives just straight up has the best price for TwoSun knives of anywhere I've ever found. Maybe not on absolutely every knife, but on the vast majority of TwoSun knives, it's simply the best place to go. And then you get 10% off with my code CCE. So, great. Thanks for watching this video with me. Thanks for sharing it with your friends. Thanks for leaving a comment down below. Your comments really do help. Thanks for all you do for the channel. Huge thank you to my Patreon supporters, my YouTube membership supporters. You guys really help me out an awful lot. And remember, friends, cut towards your chum, not your thumb. Bye for now.